how I like to visualize periodization for powerlifters to help make the picture a bit clearer. For a powerlifter, I like to view periodization like this. So after competition and competition, so going from, you know, as far away from competition to the actual competition itself, we have a few different continuums here. So variability and specificity being our first one. So specificity, we will cover in depth. We'll cover all these things in depth throughout this mentorship, but this is just a bit of an overview. So specificity, we want obviously a very high amount of specificity close to competition. We want to be doing a lot of competition squat, benching, and deadlifting. That comes with its own set of problems. And then after competition, we're going to have a lot of variability, a lot of variance in our reps, in our exercises, and get the benefits from them. And understand that it's going to make us a little bit maybe not as great a progression on the squat, bench, and deadlift, and that's totally fine. That's periodization, that's planning. There's pros and cons to each of those things. Health and performance are also on that spectrum to some degree. In beginners and maybe low-level novices, they definitely come together. Like when somebody is initially training to get bigger and stronger, they're probably going to get healthier to some degree. But eventually they are going to branch off. The people who are at the top of the game and have to make a lot of sacrifices in their life, add a lot of stress to the system, train super hard to get just those little PBs and things like that, it's going to come with a little bit of health detriments. But again, if we plan correctly, if we periodize correctly, it's only going to be a short period of time, and we can make sure that's not going to be really a problem. It's just going to be a part of the process. So blood test results, resting heart rate expectations, blood pressure, HRV, if you measure all those things, like we can watch those, and we can plan them, and we should know when they were going up, we should know when they're going down, and we can use them to make this really good decisions in our overall plan. And lastly here, this ties into all that other stuff anyway, but parasympathetic drive and sympathetic drive at percentages of the spectrum. So we're going from more of a relaxed kind of whole body state on the parasympathetic side to more of a kind of stressed side on the sympathetic side. Like think about it when you're coming into a comp, or when you're putting your clients through a comp prep, things like those resting heart rates, their blood pressure, their HRV are probably going to elevate a little bit. The whole system is going to be showing signs of overall systemic stress, more sympathetic activity. They're going to be a little bit tighter all around through their body. All that's completely normal, and it actually helps make us fucking strong. So all that stuff is very normal. And but do you want to be living like that forever and have that year round all the time? Definitely not. We want to drive more parasympathetic activity after competitions, as far as when we're a long way from different competitions. So they're just some of the continuums that we're going to slide up and down as somebody goes on these journeys between competitions. People out there who live and die by the science, and I'm all for being evidence-based. I'm all for being up to date with the current research, for reading research reviews like MASS and things like that. I think every coach who wants to be the best should be doing that stuff. But if you get caught up on trying to just be evidence-based on every single thing that you do, you'll quickly find yourself making a lot of mistakes or falling behind. So, and that is because of the following. So first of all, like getting people to follow even a basic plan. I'm sure everybody here who's coached people knows can be really difficult depending on the person. So imagine a scientist in a lab trying to get heaps of people to get good data to all follow a plan. It's just very hard to do. It can be super difficult for them. And so hence there's always a little bit of play in these, you know, how strictly are these people following it? And I understand that's why they have so many people in there to make the outliers, but still it's a consideration that we have to consider when we look at the accuracy of these studies. And also, like I said, they're not only that, but these concepts like periodization are long-term things, really long-term things, yearly things. If it's an Olympic periodization plan, is 4 years. So like getting people to do it for really, really long periods of time, like just a week of hypertrophy data is not going to be much. Like the measuring that on somebody, you're going to need ridiculous equipment. And even then, like the error within that equipment is probably going to be as big as the actual result themselves. So doing it for a really long time, getting people to follow a plan for a really long time and get measurable data from it, really difficult again, like super duper difficult. So all I'm saying is, as the last point says there, use the science to guide you, read the research reviews, read the research if you want to, read books, read it all. And always, but always be encouraging data collection within your programming, subjective and objective, and manipulating plans and variables based on what you're seeing happen with an individual. So guide your plan with the science, manipulate the plan based on the individual. And I think that's it for this presentation. So let's stop that there, the sharing anyway, and we'll open it up. And I am yet to see the chat. Oh, that was from Alex, that question. Did that answer your question, Alex? Where are you?
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, so you'll see that more when we actually get to the walkthroughs of hypertrophy blocks and when we get to the, like I said, the specificity variability talk. But it's, yeah, super individual, unfortunately. Like somebody like yourself, you've done enough squat, bench, and deadlift. I would be getting away from it a lot to deal with things, but yeah, but somebody new to the game, you know, I'm not going to take somebody who's only just started squatting away from squatting for the sake of variability. Bit of a sneak peek, but on the variability talk, I say that one of the concepts and one of the misunderstandings of variability being defined the opposite of specificity. The thing that people fuck it up is that they think variability is just doing literally anything that isn't squat, bench, deadlift. Like they go like, oh, you know, I just saw this new random drill on Instagram. I should do that for my client because of variability. That's my reasoning behind it. And variability is really still needs to have like a reason. We still need to go like, hey, we're putting this into the plan for a reason. We need to put it in there for, you know, with an outcome in mind. So yeah, I find people get way too like caught up in the pretty stuff that's just like new and fancy or complex for the sake of complexity, whatever it is, rather than being like, oh, hey, like rather than doing low bar triples, we're going to do like safety bar sixes, you know, like that could be enough variability for a person like who's been in powerlifting for a long enough game and still have transferability over to the main lift.
Would you ever get, or would you often get like more variable than something like a safety bar? Like, would you ever like move away from squats, like and just use like a leg press or?
Man, that's literally like I said, like so that's where I am right now. But it's only because I have 6-9 months to my next competition. It's not something that I would do super often, but I like to explain it as minimum effective dose, as in like, for me, for people like you who've been doing powerlifting a long time, there's going to be a certain threshold of where we can remain like practiced or feel practiced on squat, bench, and deadlift. For me, I often find it's much less than what people think. Like for me, I feel like if I do a few sets of squats a week, I'm comfortable with that. Like I feel like I could go in and do squats right now, and within a couple of warm-up sets, it'd be fine. Whereas somebody a lot less experienced, their minimum effective volume to maintain that competency might be a fair bit higher. They might have to do 6 or 7 or 8 sets of squats a week to be able to feel practice in that lift to not lose that skill. And it's not like I want the squat, bench, and deadlift, like the metrics, like the estimated 1 hours. I don't really want them sliding backwards too hard. I'm happy with a little bit of backwards due to fatigue because we're throwing in a bunch of hypertrophy maybe. But ideally, I'd at least keep them like on par or, you know, within 10% of past performances. I don't want them to slide back completely, but COVID's kind of a unique circumstance, I feel.
When you say minimum effective dose, is that more to do with like maintaining skill rather than? Yeah,
purely skill. Yeah. Minimum effective dose, not for progression in terms of like an RP definition. I'm talking like purely to remain practiced, to keep that skill alive, or to keep that mindset towards the lift decent.
Yeah.
and then I'm going to fill up the rest of my recovery, the rest of my stimulus that somebody can recover from with other crap, with hypertrophy or whatever else they need.
Yep, awesome.